Welcome to the People Leaders Podcast, the audio resource for managers and business leaders creating high-performing teams. Join leadership and team development experts Jan and Michelle Turkelson each week as they explore both subjects from every angle. Through practical tips, valuable insights, and compelling interviews with leadership experts around the world, you'll learn how to bring out the best in your staff and how to give your best as a leader.
How are you doing today, Jan?
Great. I'm really excited about this series that we're going to do, and this one in particular about career planning. So you've just completed a workshop with
A career coaching session with 25 amazing women where we talked about, this is really the first stage in this whole thing called career planning. And what I was saying to them was that, this bucket of information called career is as big as the bucket of leadership. Like, it has so many permutations and approaches.
and life.
Like life, absolutely.
So what was the biggest takeaway for you? Like, what did you learn from this group of women?
That people underestimate what they can achieve, and we overcomplicate things. We tend to overcomplicate things, which is why we are going to boil this down to 4 easy steps. So in a nutshell, if you wanted to either reinvigorate your career, kickstart your career, start your career, there are 4 easy or simple steps. It's not always easy, but there are 4 simple steps that we would encourage you to follow. And I'll just give you a quick overview of them. And the first step is know yourself. Know your skills, your behaviours, your values, what you're good at, those sorts of things, your personality. The next one is about exploring options. So what are some of the things that I need to explore further in order to give me more clarity? So I've worked out this thing about me. Now I've got to work out the thing about what's out there in the environment so that I can match us up.
And a good point about this is, even if you are a seasoned professional, exploring options is even going to be more important, because sometimes we get set in our ways and we have this unconscious bias of looking at a particular industry or sector or group. And I think we just need to be open-minded about how we can use our skills and abilities in a myriad of ways, because technology is changing the way in which we do business and what skills are needed in different sectors.
Correct. And so next thing we have a look at is narrowing our focus. So it is about, all right, I've had a look at what are my strengths, what are my potential weaknesses, where are the areas. I'm looking at, exploring options. Now I'm narrowing my focus, getting closer and closer and closer to making a decision, whether it's about, do I move to another job? Do I need to improve my skills in a certain area? Do I need to get myself a mentor or a coach? So it's about really narrowing your options, which leads to the very next one, which is
Taking action.
Life rewards action. We love that.
Yeah.
And so they're the 4 simple steps. So why don't we now just go through each of those 4 steps for people?
And with any model of change or exploration, it really does start with knowing yourself, this having a good solid foundation of self-awareness. And we always encourage people to continuously look at what their strengths and weaknesses are. And the reason why this is so important is because when you know what your strengths and weaknesses are, you will know when to push through something, when to pull back, when to get support, when to get a mentor. And I think this really helps the process of discovery, but also, when you actually do take action, you're going to get a better result in the end, because the process is going to be better.
Correct. So the other thing that I would encourage people to do is, and if they haven't, a lot of people who have been in along a career path for a little while would have some understanding or have done some sort of personality assessment, whether it's the Myers-Briggs. Definitely encourage you to find out what your Myers-Briggs type is, whether it's the DISC or some sort of profiling or personality profiling system can be very illuminating in terms of you identifying and getting more clarity around the sort of things that you know, the things that you enjoy. Because what the research is saying over and over and over again is people who are working in their strengths, the things that they like doing and are good at doing, are 6 times more likely to be engaged at work. So finding out your personality preference, finding out what you're good at, what your core strengths are, your competencies, you're adding to that picture. And one of the fundamental pieces within that area is values. And the thing about values, well, if you wanted to find out, you know, gee, I never really thought about my values. We do have something on our website, a values card sort, which gives you a list of values and helps you work out a sorting mechanism so that you can at least identify your top values.
Yeah, and values are things that are important to you. And a good indicator of what your values are is where you spend your time, money and energy. So look around your house, look where you spend most of your time, and that will give you a really good reflection of what your values are, not what your aspirational values are, but what your real values are.
So, you know, I had a client once who said, you know, health and well-being, you know, top of my values list. And I think it was aspirational because this is somebody who was not exercising, someone who would have, you know, 2 sugar drinks, you know, at lunch, and, you know, so it just was, there was an incongruence there between.
Okay, so next steps for someone would be to go online and do your Myers-Briggs, your LSI, which is another great feedback tool. You could do your DISC profile, as you mentioned. We are really excited about the Enneagram at the moment, and you're up at Byron Bay doing stage 2 of the Enneagram course, which will be fascinating. And any profiling tool that just helps you discover things that you may not be consciously aware of. Anything else?
No, I was just going to say, you'll know if it's a worthwhile profiling tool because you'll go, oh, yes, of course. And, Myers-Briggs, we love Myers-Briggs.
Yeah. And then, you know, so what is the so what factor in that for me? You know, what am I going to do differently? How am I going to explore my options in a way that brings this new information to life? Exactly.
So the other thing that I suggested to this group of women was grab yourself a notebook or a journal and start jotting this down. Like have a section in there called Know Myself. You know, and you could have a page of strengths, a page of behavioural traits, a page of whatever it is, just so you're building up a body of knowledge about yourself.
Which adds to a level of confidence. And when you have confidence, you actually then step into competency because there's less risk involved if you do have a level of confidence to talk about, you know, what your strengths are. So values are, as you mentioned before, are really important in this whole body of knowing yourself.
That's right. And by spending a little time in the know yourself area, it will give you an indication of where you are now, where you want to be. It'll give you an inkling of things that I like to do, things that I don't like to do. So at the end of this section, if you spend some time, you will have a really good understanding of yourself. I mean, it's a never-ending thing, is it, Jan, knowing oneself?
Peeling the onion.
You're peeling the onion. That's exactly the phrase I used the other day. But you'll have a good stab at it, that's for sure.
Great.
Which leads us to the next step, which is really about exploring options. So it is about, if you're in an organisation, exploring the opportunities and whether they're occupational opportunities or learning opportunities within the organisation that sing. Well, I was going to say that, you know, makes you sing or that speaks to you, but that is in line with your personality preferences and behaviours. So if you're an extroverted person who loves dealing with people, you know, gets a lot of energy and joy from that, perhaps spending time on pivot tables and Excel spreadsheets
and
all day. That's right. You know, you will know, you will start to see and you will gravitate towards those sorts of areas that you have an interest or a strength in.
And also picking a particular project might be a way of exploring options. And another thing that I would recommend is have a look at people in your organisations that you can relate to and just start to explore what are some of those things that they're doing, just to give you a different perspective. Now, if you're not in a large organisation, some of the things that you can do is just having a look at women that you do admire and to see what industry they're in and read their backstory.
Exactly, read their biography. I think that's a great suggestion, Jan.
Now, the reason why we say read their biography, it isn't so then we can model those steps. It's just to get inspiration, because you are going to have your own set of unique steps. It's not just a formulaic, you do this and whatever. You actually have to follow what it is that is being drawn out from you, because that will give you the absolute best path.
So an example might be, I might be an extroverted type that loves, dealing with people, and I'm pretty good at selling, and influencing. However, I don't have any skills in either presentation or, sales. That could be. So there, what you're doing is creating, or drawing that link between I know myself and now I'm exploring the options and I'm identifying, there's a bit of a skills gap here that I could fill. So that's an example of how you would use step 1 and step 2 together.
That's right. And, what options do you have to actually gain these skills or qualify for these occupations? And where is the work? Because you might be interested in a particular area, but it may not be a burgeoning industry or sector in your space, which is fine. However, you do need to take the path of least resistance, because that is going to help you with your mindset and your confidence.
So when you say take the path of least resistance, Jan, what do you mean?
So I mean, you don't want things to be a battle. So if I'm really interested in the tech industry and I may not live anywhere near opportunities for that, am I going to move my whole family to an area, or am I going to seek out people in my area who have similar interests and do things virtually and online, and what is an offshoot of that I can do now that is going to not create even more stress in my life at the moment?
Great. Okay, so let's have a look at step 3, which is about narrowing one's focus. So this looks at, I'm going to start comparing options. I've put a couple of options on the table now, and now I'm going to start narrowing those choices and options down. And so it's almost like, what sort of work, if I'm in an organisation at the moment, what sort of occupations am I drawn to? Which departments am I drawn to, given my background, the skills that I'm working on, and also my personality type, behaviours and preferences?
So these are the questions you want to ask. What are your best work options, or what are your best training options?
Given the resources and what I have available to me right now.
How do they match with my skills, interests and values? This is the path of least resistance. You want them to match, even though there may be gaps.
You might think about how they fit in with the current situation in terms of the economics, the economics in the marketplace. Is there a growing need for, people with your particular skill?
Yeah.
And it's just worth exploring. Going online, it shouldn't deter you, but, the more information you have, the better.
And how do these options fit with your current situation responsibilities? If you're a new parent with a lot of responsibilities for, family, you can still progress your career.
Absolutely.
But you do it in a slightly different way that allows you to keep moving forward.
That's right.
Incrementally.
I was just telling someone today, we overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 5 years. Heard that the other day. And then we look at, this is where you can do your advantages and disadvantages of each options, and, what are the things that are preventing me from moving forward? Are there any barriers right now? What are the things that are opportunities that I could take advantage of in the organisation or in my local community right now that will lead me closer to moving in the direction that I want.
That's it, yeah. So, what can I do about it now? For people who are good at projecting themselves into the future, sometimes if you have a number of options, to some people it actually closes them down. If this is you, just take one option and explore it and just go as far as you can with the resources available to you and see where that leads you. And then take the next step and then the next step. But try not to go from A all the way over to Z, just incrementally, because that way you're not putting stress, you're not blocking yourself. You want to take the next step. So, the universe can configure itself to support you in order for the next step that you're going to take. Most of us are satisfied when we go, okay, I know what my next 5 steps are, because there's this level of ease about it, and control. We want to control things, but it usually doesn't work like that. You just want to open yourself up to what is the next most logical step that I can do right now with what I have.
Which leads, really nicely into the last sort of step in this process, which is taking action. So it's like you don't take action before you've got a plan. So it implies that you've got some goals or some action steps in place in order to move forward. So even if you haven't, it's almost like you don't actually have to say, yes, by the end of next year, I want to become, a site engineer or whatever that is. If you've got a plan to move forward in the area that interests you, then that's a plan. You're getting more clarity and,
And even a plan could be that every morning I am going to feel what it would be like if I was doing the work that I enjoyed, that was using my gifts and talents, that it was giving me an opportunity to flex my style and my strengths and my capability. And that could be something that you do every day for a period when you may not be able to go out and research, when you really feel that you don't have the time, but you are still moving forward.
That's right. And so this is about asking yourself, so what actions and steps will help me achieve what I want to achieve so far, whether it's training or whether it's moving in the direction of this area. Where can I get help? Who will support me? And what are the next couple of steps that I need to take? And so who can support me is an interesting area, because you might be surprised at how many people there are in your current work situation or community that would be open to the idea of having a coffee or a chat and helping you get more clarity, or they might know somebody that knows somebody. You just never know until you put it out there. Or you could get yourself a career coach.
So, we would invite you over the next couple of weeks just to ruminate on some of these ideas and action steps, and have a think about, what could I do? What could be the next logical step that will allow me to feel like I'm moving forward?
Yeah. So the most important one we would probably suggest to people is start at the beginning, which is the know yourself area, and spend as much time as you want in this space until you're ready to move on to the next step.
Yeah, but definitely most logical step.
That's right. And start where you are. So that was fun, Jan. Thank you. See ya. Bye.
You've been listening to the People Leaders Podcast with Michelle and Jan Turkelson. For show notes and other free resources, please visit us at peopleleaderspodcast.com. Do you know someone else who could benefit from cutting-edge leadership and management techniques? Please take a moment to share this and other episodes via your podcast app, email, or social media channels. Each share helps us fulfill our goals of reducing workplace stress and increasing job satisfaction for leaders, managers, and their teams worldwide. The People Leaders Podcast is brought to you by the Experts On Air Podcast Network.